You're muted. We're probably all muted still.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, Saibo, if you're speaking, I can't quite hear you. I hope.
Don't. Oh my god, it was a prank. Oh my god.
Hope that
You
wasn't just
got
for me.
pranked. You got pranked. Oh god. Hi everyone. Yes.
Hello, good evening.
Hi. Thank you so much, guys. I was just saying while I just pranked all of you, I was just saying that I'm very thankful for those of you who have turned up this lovely evening or morning, depending where you live. Very nice to have you. Today we're gathered here in celebration of the many changes and many additions that are coming to Lost Ark. I wanted to dive deeper into these changes. I wanted to talk about stuff that I didn't, for example, mention in my yesterday's video reviewing the Loa On that just happened in Korea. First of all, before I give you the TLDR, before I talk to those of you who are new about what is it that we're actually talking about, I wanted to say a huge thank you to Lin-0 and Wilky, two very nice people, content creators. You can find them both on YouTube and on Twitch. Their links are in the description below for being here tonight. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Now, in case you're new to Lost Ark, or in case you're new to my streams in general, welcome to my podcast, by the way. And for those of you who aren't new, welcome as well. Lost Ark is again slightly changing in 2022. Again to the better, the weirder, the bigger, the stronger, I would say. And I wanted to make sure that all of these changes that we're going to talk about today in today's podcast, I wanted to make sure that those of you who are new understand that these are things that are coming soon to the Korean version of Lost Ark, right? These are not things that are guaranteed for us day one. However, we, all of us in the Lost Ark community, tend to believe that most of these things that we're going to be mentioning will eventually find their way to our version of the game as well, right? So we will also be glad to have them. Now, a list of these changes. I wanted to quickly go with you guys through the TLDR. Then we're also going to be taking questions from you guys. If you have any comments regarding what we're talking about during today's podcast, I'm very happy to have your questions on the screen so we can talk about them as well. So don't be afraid to ask questions during my podcast, especially because you have here two really cool people that can also answer your questions. Yeah, the third one couldn't make it. So a recap of everything that is happening in Lost Ark, right? Let's do it like this. I have here a file that I'm going to be talking from. I'm sorry, I don't have any pictures, so I can delight your eyes. A recap, and then we're going to start diving deep with Lin-0 and Wilky into things that are coming. So, some speculation, also some rumors, some things that are unclear, such as the fact that part of the reason why the game was delayed from October to February is the fact that they wanted to have the tier 3 content already localized before we even start our game. This is something interesting that I really want to get into with these two lovely people. DirectX 11 is replacing DirectX 9 for Lost Ark, which is absolutely huge. New class, the painter or artist. New profession that hosts this new class also. Profession called specialist, or translated as specialist. And also on top of the painter, which they showed gameplay footage for, they've also talked about an aeromancer and showed a picture of her. This is a lowly profession, as it seems. Female berserker. I don't even want to get into that right now because I'm getting the goosies. The gold inflation problem, this is something that concerns the Korean servers, the Russian servers, for example. Not necessarily something for us to pay much attention to. I'm going to talk about why a bit later. The gold inflation was also addressed, and selflessly at that, and we're going to get into it. all of the mini games that are being added to Lost Ark, like Mario type 2D games that you can play, or tower defense games, or League of Legends, MOBA kind of Dota looking games, mini games, another addition that was announced during the last Rowan. In terms of PvP content, we have the PvP continent Rowan that is coming out on the 29th this month. GVG Fortress battles, Realm or Raid versus Raid faction PvP, 1v1 arena, very interesting, right? There is a little plan for the 1v1 arena. Less points to spend in your book of coordination in PvP, better field of view, CC changes, we're going to talk about all of them. Royal Roaders esports LAN tournament also announced for January and February for the Korean version, very exciting. New collectibles, new map, boss facing indicators, character switch changes where you can see your cooldowns at the character switch and how many dailies you have done on them right before you actually log into your character. Very interesting. A housing revamp. The game director was also talking about an animated series for Lost Ark, sort of like Arcane is right now on Netflix, where they present characters from League of Legends. The game director said that he's kind of jealous of that, and he would want something like that for Lost Ark. Nothing really set in stone or shown, just talked about. Apparently, many story changes coming to Lost Ark, and also many places that have more story that we can learn coming in the future with new continents and places specifically for story. And speaking of story, the game director said that we are 70% into the first tier of the story, by the way, which is interesting. Don't worry, we're almost done. I know it's a lot and I'm talking a lot in this intro, but there was just I'm just reciting to you changes right now. New corps commanders and one new raid boss planned. The third awakening skill that's going to be a little bit or work a little bit different than the current two. New skills, update to skill animations that all classes already has. Auction house quality of life changes, selfie mode updates, dungeon entries, menus outside of the town, right? So you can now do your map completion or sailing or whatever and actually enter dungeons and queue up for stuff and exit you're at the same spot. Super, super cool. Challenge Guardian raids changes to fewer entries and better rewards, so you don't have to spend so much time at that. You can just join the minigames instead, just saying. Secret map sharing improvements to make it easier and less chance to get scammed when you're using secret maps. Order and number of buffs, party buffs, right? Because there's a lot of them if you're doing it with an 8-man party, right? That menu has also been added. And also the last but not least, I guess, you can now choose your MVP pose. Right? This is very important because at the end of PvE content, when you've been struggling in those nasty Guardian raids, you can choose what pose your character will be as an MVP. Some players, or some classes, will never be there. But that's besides the point. So first thing I wanted to get into and ask these lovely people's opinion is actually the DirectX and the new class. First of all, the DirectX, what do you guys think? Do you have any thoughts? Are you excited for it? What does it mean when you change from DirectX 9 to DirectX 11, right? I'm asking these stupid questions even though I know the answer to them, but maybe some people that are watching don't.
All right, I would start not to go too tech heavy. I think most people who are into games, which I assume most of you guys are, since we're here talking about Lost Ark, know what, or probably heard of DirectX. It's essentially, I would say, a tool or a piece of software that you have to have on your PC to run games and stuff like that. And the very clear-cut answer in this scenario is DirectX 11 should, in theory, and probably will also in reality, improve our performance. The extent is obviously going to vary from each PC because of different components, what your settings are, but generally speaking, almost everybody, if not even everybody, should have a better to even a much better performance when we go to DirectX 11, which is good because Lost Ark, frankly, has a good to very good performance already, outside maybe of like Chaos Rifts and crowded areas. But I'm still very happy because better performance is always good. More people get to play it, more people get to experience a better and a more smoother gameplay. So it's a win for everybody.
And it's faster, right?
That's true.
Wilky was speaking of better performance. that also is included in better performance. The loading screens are faster, which is something very nice in Lost Ark, because if you're a normal player and you just want to go from, I don't know, from wherever, Papunica to Rohendel, do a couple of daily quests, then God forbid, you have so many loading screens. I want to talk about a little bit about the new class, the painter or the artist. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to be there in Korea. Why is the new class a support class, and what does that mean for the current support classes in terms of their other gender counterpart?
I mean, I think it's pretty good that we have another support class, considering that we only have, Bard and Holy Knight, two classes which would fill that support nation PvE. And, you could consider a few more for PvP, but either way, the number of actual support classes in this game is quite limited, especially considering that we haven't seen gender unlocks for them as of yet, right? So the warrior gender unlock that we got is going to be female berserker. It's not going to be female Holy Knight. So it may be a while before we start getting female Holy Knight as an additional support. We've yet to see the one for mage, so we may see male bard. But given the trend that they're going, and probably put my bets on male summoner, considering that they seem to be going with like the first poster child class for each given base class. So I think it's great that we're having another support class. Gives people more options to play around with. It's always a little bit overwhelming when they're doing both gender unlocks and new classes at the same time. I love having more content. I just hope that they can kind of keep up the pace. But I think it's very nice to see that, and the other classes are going to be adding as well, right? The Aeromancer and the supposedly data mined Alchemist, which is one that I'm very interested in as well.
Right. So all of these are going to be in female. We can assume that, or they can just start with the Alchemist being a male and not necessarily a female, because they don't have to. Maybe they just already have the gender unlock for it, right? But we can assume that all of them are going to be lolis, all of them are going to be female. Having another support class is nice. I'm interested in those of you who are watching. What do you think about another support class in Lost Ark? Obviously, this support class, the painter, the artist that was just announced and is coming out actually in January to the Korean servers, will make its way sooner than any other future classes like the Aeromancer will. So we will have eventually also 3 support classes, and I'm very interested to see what do you think about it being a support. Also, in terms of the male and female counterparts, I'm not sure what Wilky thinks, but do you think that Lost Ark is forced to have, for example, if the Bard is a support class, what if they make the male bard into a DPS class, or are they forced to? What's your opinion? Are they forced to still keep the support trend for bard as well for the male?
I don't think they're forced to it. They will definitely, I wouldn't go so far piss off people, but would probably lose a few people if they were to make a DPS male bard. But we talked about this in one of the other podcasts, that I wouldn't mind, for example, if they put like a little twist on it, as in maybe the male bard isn't as much of a support as the female bard, but adds a little bit more DPS, so it's like maybe filling more of a hybrid role. And same for like female paladin, where she could actually be played as a DPS, sort of like in the lines of a warlord, just with a bunch of shields on top of that. I think they could perfectly do that, because right now it's really just all black and white. Essentially, you have DPS or support, right? Those are the only 2 archetypes you currently have. And I think Lost Ark would work perfectly fine with like an intermediate half support, or whatever else you want to call this. Most of you who did PvE, you can do PvE just fine even without a support. So I think kind of mixing it up a little bit and making like a semi-support, semi-DPS kind of route would work perfectly fine in the game.
For example, with an engraving, right? The male bard with an engraving at endgame called Path of Darkness, right? He can become all of these skills that the bard has and are very good support skills. Maybe they become unusable. I mean, they've done crazy stuff with engravings before, right? So, just become male bard, but you become a DPS if you want to choose that engraving, or a support with the other engraving. They've done this already in the game, so it wouldn't be a problem. What do you think about a tank? Why don't we have, let's say, another class that can easily taunt, that loves to be in front, that has, a lot of counters, a lot of head attacks? Why not? And when?
Yeah,
and
I
how?
think Yeah, tank classes are a little bit weird, right? Because in Lost Ark, you don't really have a traditional tank role, right? Roles in Lost Ark a little bit. You know, you have your glorified DPSs and then you have your supports. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Wilky. Pitch in at any point. But a class like Warlord, for example, which is like a really, really tanky class, is usually seen as, you know, it's a tanky DPS, so you can offer party utility with your shield, with Malacia, with like attack damage debuffs, etc. But it doesn't really take a role of, oh, I'm going to hold the boss aggro. Most of, you know, bosses are just mechanics in which you play through the motions of your party and you fulfill them. So I wouldn't think of Lost Ark as a game that has, you know, this holy trinity as you find in other MMORPGs. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. And even the supports that we have relatively limited healing, right? Support here is usually just buffs and improving the performance of classes that are in the raid. So I think we only have like 2 taunt skills in the game. We have Summoner's Pet, like Mighty Dean can pet or can like taunt.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was one of the original classes that was released back when you could, I guess, do more interrupts of taunts. And you have Warlord, which has a taunt, I believe, on his shout. And that's kind of it. I don't think there's anything else.
And also the chains.
The
sorry,
chain,
the chain.
Yeah. So yeah, taunting skills, but I don't think that they're going down the path of taunts. They did mention a lot about, you know, front attacks, back attacks, counters, etc., and how they're going to be really playing up these mechanics. So we will probably see more counter type skills and more classes that are exploiting these different kind of directional and reactional mechanics. But I'm not sure we're going to be seeing many, you know, oh, this is a tank. We may see tanky classes like, you know, artillerist or gun lancer, you know, warlord or blaster. But I don't think we're going to be seeing like a tank. I don't think that's the direction they want to take the game in.
Right. So you think that they might want to move away from even adding another class like the warlord, or do you think that they still want to keep that? What's your guess?
I mean, they'll probably add a class like the warlord, but if you think of the warlord as, you know, as a tanky DPS as opposed to, oh, he is a tank, then I think we may get something more like it. I mean, heck, we still have to get female warlord, so I'm sure that when we get female warlord, we're going to be getting something like that again. So I wouldn't say it's, you know, beyond the realm of possibility. I think it's very, very likely that we'll get it. Just I don't think that they'll take things towards we're going to add more taunt skills to the game. I think they're probably going to keep it as is.
Any guesses for the umbrella class? Someone was saying that the weather artist can maybe have the umbrella as a shield. That's an interesting.
I think she's more probably gonna go down the mage route. At least that's what I believe. Seeing what the specialist, the first one, the artist being definitely more like a mage, albeit she's painting stuff. We could probably all agree that it's more like kind of like the mage route. I could see her being a little bit more, since she's like weather themed, like atmospheric, as in like maybe have more of a global buffer route, as in she can cast rain that has like a very, very minor heal over time, or like a lightning storm that increases speed of the teammates or something like that. So I can see that being like a semi-support. Like she's gonna have abilities that's gonna not only boost her own performance but also her teammates' performance. But the overall role is still gonna be a DPS. So we're not gonna replace a bard with a umbrella wielder, whatever her name's gonna be in the end. But maybe gauge this and say like, oh, I have a warlord. If I just take the umbrella with me, I don't actually need a bard because I have like a semi-heal and I already have a shield from the warlord. Maybe I can make it work like that way.
All right. Female berserker. Any thoughts? Any impressions?
Oh, I'm so excited about that. I love female berserker. I started playing berserker very recently, so I decided to, I'm going to pick up berserker for PvP in the past like 2.5 weeks. There was even like a little PvP tournament that happened yesterday right after LOE on, and I was like, I'm going to play this tournament with berserker. I just love berserker now. I'm all about berserker. And then literally on the day of the tournament, they come out and it's like, female berserker has been announced. I felt blessed by the gods. Like, this is it. This is my calling. So I'm very excited that we're getting Biken in Lost Ark, and it's looking really, really nice.
Wilky, did you like it? Did you like her hair and the chains?
Obviously, I mean, art style in Lost Ark is almost always really good, I think. And I'm actually surprised that they launched or announced female berserker, because berserker is already a very popular class in both PvE and PvP aspects, right? So I was thinking it potentially might be female paladin or something like that, but they really went with it. Maybe because they know that people will actually really dig it. And if they pull it off, I mean, berserker is by all means not perfect, right? He has a classic theme of a very brawler, very frontline character, but especially in PvP, he's more like you're like either you're going to delete somebody's existence if you get to catch them, or like going to be really disruptive. But doing both on your own is really difficult because of his cooldown management and everything. So I think they could do a very interesting twist on her. Either reduce her cooldowns, maybe make her not as like hitting hard per hit, but maybe a little bit faster, or maybe even go the opposite route, make her even, I wouldn't even call it clunkier, but maybe a bit more committed. But then again, like give her really, really huge hits in return. So I'm really curious to see what they'll do to her. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people will like playing her, unless they royally screw up, which I'm sure they won't.
Okay. Next topic in line now, since we got past these classes. Actually, you know what? Before we move on, I just wanted to give those of you who are watching, because this was something that I've always wondered for myself, and I'm gonna pass this question on to you guys also, Lin-0 and Wilky. Would you enjoy Lost Ark the same if they would go a little bit more towards a Guild Wars 2 route and slowly start maybe adding a class or two that can actually throw in a bit of healing, and a class of two that can throw in a little bit of tanking? Because Guild Wars 2 did also this. Like at the beginning, it was just, support at a specific, cap of how much they can support, and everyone was a DPS basically. Lost Ark does this also right now. But would you enjoy Lost Ark more or the same, or would you even care if they would, for example, change the Holy Knight in a way in which he can have like 2 or 3 skills that throw some healing, not so much on shields, and increase the attack and defense, and also if they would add a class that could actually, to a certain degree at least, be able to tank, in air quotes, just out of pure curiosity. And I'm going to pass this poll also to those of you in chat as well. I'm just interested.
Yeah, so for me, I play Guild Wars 2, but most of the PvE that is in Guild Wars 2 was quite early on, before they started, coming out with, Chronomancer and more like dedicated tanking roles. I think the issue that comes when you have a Holy Trinity is you then start requiring certain classes to be able to perform well in content. If they implement this, so it all comes out to how they implement it, right? If they implement it in such a way that you can still have class variety, perhaps you can have build variety, and just allows people to play more things the way that they want to, I think that's great. But if they then start implementing Holy Trinity and it's like, okay, we absolutely need these kinds of classes if we want to be performing well at this level of content, then I start thinking, okay, you're kind of taking away variety from the game. I don't think that's a good idea. So it all comes down to implementation, right? If they start implementing like, a more tanking based mechanic. So, you just have to, HP tank through this, or you just shield tank through it. And that means you need shield classes or you need shield items for it. I mean, sure, but it depends on, is that something that you'd be able to do with different kinds of compositions or not? So long as they keep things varied, they keep things accessible, and they keep things fun, then I have no problem with it. But it all depends on how they do it.
What do you think, Wilky?
I'm gonna take a bit more of a bold statement. I'm not really a fan of the Holy Trinity system. I did play MMORPGs in the past that did run it, but it usually ended up almost everything, or almost every time, it was like either you have a static group or a guild that houses X, Y, and Z amount of specific classes that you could actually run content, or you'd be hard stuck waiting for a tank or a support, sometimes even both, because let's face it, majority of people do want to see their big numbers or the name, because most of the time MVPs or something like DPS meters, right? There's no heal meter or support meter in those games. So typically most people flock to DPS, which in itself isn't really a problem unless, like Lin said, it becomes a requirement to have those specific comps to actually clear it. And at that point, it's, I think, a problem, because not everybody is in a guild, not everybody wants to join a guild, not everybody wants to join a community, which typically takes away the fun for me, which is why I really like how Lost Ark is. I mean, we kind of have the same problem that some people make up groups and specifically look for supports, but it's still relatively decent in terms of you can puck almost everything you want to do. But I've been in games which had like 10, 20,000 concurrent players, and we sat around dungeon browsers for like 30 minutes, sometimes even more than an hour, because nobody wanted to tank or nobody wanted to heal, which always kind of bums me out, because I want the game to be playable and not have like a management outside to like schedule my stuff with like, look, we need to tank at this hour, we need to support at that hour, and God knows.
So you basically think that having a tank and a healer brings a little bit more chore to the game. Like, we need one, we have to find one. As opposed
Absolutely.
to pleasing people.
I don't think the Holy Trinity is bad per se, right? I think the Holy Trinity has its place, and if the game is based around it and it's implemented very well, then definitely, because there are still people out there that do enjoy genuine supporting, like really just making sure your teammates don't die and healing. So that's not it. But I think Lost Ark, the way it currently runs, it would be better off not to go into the Holy Trinity route.
Right. Okay. There is a poll, by the way, guys. If you just joined us recently, I made a poll to ask your opinion. I'm going to post it again in chat. Your opinion on, would you like Lost Ark as much, or would you mind? Would you even care? Or would you be excited for if they would maybe change a couple of classes to heal a little bit more, a couple of classes to maybe have the opportunity to tank a little bit longer than just a taunt to cancel mechanic. So just curious about your opinions. Please vote. It's for free, and I'm gonna look at it a little bit later. Yeah, cool. I wanted to dive into some sort of a. This is weird, right? This is a weird thing that happened during the Q&A part of Rowan yesterday. I'm gonna tell you the information that I've gathered from various sources, also from actually watching the stream and the translation, which was a little bit misleading. So, the delay from October this year to February next year is apparently in part because of the fact that they wanted to localize the tier 3 everything, the tier 3 that's currently the endgame content in Korea. Also, the game director was saying in just a very weird translation, that the Western players from North America and Europe will get to experience the Legion raids a lot quicker and very fast after release. Now, this might be a little bit misleading to some of you that have heard this, and it was confusing to me as well. So I wanted to dive a little bit deeper. There was also being said that the Western players can experience tier 3 content almost immediately. And I wanted to say that my take on this is the fact that by almost immediately, he actually means 4 months, maybe 5 months after the release, which kind of feels almost immediately in the grand scheme of things. In the life of an MMORPG, what is 5 months, right? 2 months tier 1, 3 months tier 2, and then tier 3. It's nothing. A 5-month period of a gameplay, you cannot even consider yourself a player of that game, right? But I'm interested in knowing, what do you think, Wilky, and what do you think, Lin-0, about these statements, about the delay being in part caused by the fact that they wanna localize tier 3.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if that's really the only reason, because it seems a bit weird. I think the before yesterday's stream, I believe, I'm not 100% correct because I couldn't find the source to cite them on, but I think they said something that they want to have the European and North American servers to reach tier 3 within 1 year after launch. So we're already at a relatively, I wouldn't say super fast pace, but we're already pretty quick on their feet if they really want to do that, right? Because that means essentially after the game goes live, they have around 9 months to clean out everything before tier 3 hits, right? If we give a little bit of room to wiggle in here. I don't really see how they would make it even faster, unless they would go 4 weeks tier 1, or maybe 8 weeks tier 1, 8 weeks tier 2, and then we're directly going into tier 3 for like 3 months, and then Legion Raid. That seems a bit excessive, especially to people that never played the game, unless they, again, want to revamp how tier 1 and tier 2 works, which I think they just did that, which kind of would be weird if they were to redo it just again in order to keep up the pace. So what I personally guess, we're going to hit tier 3, so Papunica and onwards, between 10 and 12 months after the game goes live, and depending on how fast that is. Technically, it would be possible for the European server to hit the first Legion raid, so Balton, whatever transition you're using, I would say around 12 to 13 months after the server goes live. I would say that is feasible. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that would be my guess.
I'm a little bit more optimistic when it comes to that. I think they're going to put us in like a fast track when it comes to content, because so much of the balancing, so many of the decisions that they're making right now revolve around T3. Like there's already being talks of, how's this class going to be performing at T1? How's this class going to be performing at T2, right? Because everything that they're doing in Korea kind of has to do with Tier 3. And if we're going to get these updates, unless they really do have to maintain like completely two different systems for NAU versus the rest of the world, which is, pretty much at T3, I think it's going to be very difficult for them to manage. So I'm actually putting bets that they will probably speed this up very quickly. I'm kind of with Sio here that it may be like 5 months, maybe 6 months or something, that they will push us to T3. But I definitely think we may be on a fast track here, since so much of the game content just is focused around that tier, and it's a tier that they've kind of promised to stay around for a long time. And if they even brought it up in LOA on how, people are concerned about T4 and how that's going to be implemented, when that's going to happen. So I think getting to tier 3 is getting to a Lost Ark as a game, and it's fundamental end game progression. So I think
the game.
Yeah. What?
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to say, because you were talking about a tier 3, and then this is like the meat of Lost Ark. The game director actually went out of his way to mention that he really wants to get fast to tier 3 for us in the West, because their data shows that, for example, in Korea, 80% user retention after they have finished Valtan, right? As if Valtan itself would be some sort of a, it's a nice fight. Personally, I prefer Argos more if I would just be to compare these two, let's say entry level, right, kind of fights. But their data shows that they have 80% user retention after they finish Valtan. So people who finished Valtan, 80% of them, they continue playing the game further, and he really wants to get there. I would not dare to think personally that we have like 9 months of tier 1 and tier 2 content. Obviously, for me as a player who has played for quite some time, this is something that in a way excites me. But at the same time, I know that having tier 1 content for 4 months and doing what, Palace of Dreams for 4 months, or Guardian Raids tier 2, 4, it might not be exciting enough for the Westerners. And that's why I believe that it's going to be sort of like 2 months, or maybe 2.5 months for tier 1, 3 months at tops, and then another 3 months for tier 2. That will get us to like a 6-month kind of timing until tier 3 content. But this is just my opinion. It was a little bit weird that they said that part of the delay was this. I'm not sure if they just wanted to take a little bit of the blame, because they sort of knew that the West is watching them also. They had a stream with English subtitles, so it was, they kind of knew. But I have no reason to not believe him, right? He said it must be true in that sense. But why would they want to localize tier 3 content before February? Why would they need more time to localize that? Maybe a little bit more time to change it, or a little bit more time to add stuff to tier 3 content, like, I don't know, these mini games also to be fully implemented in Korea. I'm talking about like next year, June, July. And then afterwards, after they have tested them, or tested all of the features with fewer runs of end game content, but more rewards, so you can have more time to do something else. Maybe that's their goal. I just don't know, but it's just a little bit weird. Argos on Valtan Arena. Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice because they showed those arenas as well. I also wanted to talk about kind of an interesting thing that they did, and to take your opinion, guys, on it as well. Regarding tier 3 and regarding the gold inflation, which is currently ongoing in Korea, this is obviously mostly because of the way gold is acquired in tier 3. Apparently Argos is the main reason why tier 3 gold inflation is where it is on the Korean servers, because people used to do it with more than 7 characters, if you can believe it, on a weekly basis. So now they've limited Argos to 7 runs, or I believe 6, and the 7th and the 8th starts giving you nothing. This is obviously per server, right? So per account, you could potentially have 2 accounts or 7 accounts or 19 accounts and do it like this still. But this is one of the ways that they try to combat gold inflation. And the cool thing that I wanted to mention is the fact that they also changed, at the end of the dungeons, when you loot, you can get extra loot if you use blue diamonds. They've changed it to, or they will change it, to be able to use gold instead, right? Because they said that this is also a part of the gold inflation, and this is how they can combat people having too much gold, by making them be more incentivized to spend gold as opposed to blue diamonds. This is also nice because they give up, according to the game director, 17% of their crystal income in terms of real money, which is a nice thing for a company to do. And I really wanted to point this out. What do you guys think about spending gold for?
I think that's fair. It's also pretty good, right? Because NAU always has that concern about, is this game going to be pay to win? And a lot of the things that people are concerned of is, okay, so you have to spend crystals if you want to get additional mats in dungeons. That seems very suspect. And now that they're removing that, it seems like, it's not just appealing to the NAU audience, but also the Korean audience in that regard, right? Creating that gold sink and making it, you acquire more resources with in-game resources. You don't even have to get any crystals at all for that. And that also ties in with the way that they're monetizing their game. I think they said that, the sales of avatars or costumes, everybody knows that, fashion is the end game, but now so more than ever, as it's increased by, 21 times that it got higher. It's like, this isn't 21.3 times compared to season 1. So this isn't just, we got a 100% increase. We got a 200% increase in costumes. No, we got like an over 2,000% increase in costume sales. And I think they're probably going to be looking to monetize their game more with cosmetics and go through this, I guess, less pay-to-win path when it comes to monetizing their game, not just for NAU exclusively, but for all the regions. And as somebody who loves dressing my character, I'm very happy with that.
Wilky, do you think it's a nice thing that they did, or do you think, like someone else said in chat, that it's kind of the same thing because you can buy crystals, blue crystals with gold anyway, so who cares what's displayed there? Unless, I don't know. Actually, I guess it's the same thing.
It's not really the same thing because they are essentially removing one party of the whole transaction. Like if we're just taking a look at what they've shown. At the end of Baltan Beacons, whatever raid, you have the opportunity to spend blue crystals, right? And in order to have those blue crystals, you either buy them yourself, or you buy them like yourself with real money, or you buy them from another player. So by removing that transaction in between, they're removing 2 things essentially. One is somebody just swiping for himself, or the second one being just going to somebody else who already has swiped and wants to sell those crystals to another player. I don't know if they would actually lose 17% sales because people will still need blue crystals for different things. It's not like the raid boxes and everything were the only source where you could spend those blue crystals on. So I don't really think that they will lose those 17%. It may dip a little bit, but I think they're also thinking a little bit more about the image, like Lin said. The Western players, especially if they play a Korean or an Asian MMORPG, are very high up on their toes. Oh, this is pay to win. Oh, I can swipe, yada, yada, yada. And I think Smilegate sets a good statement that they're actually moving away from this kind of theme because whether it's pay to win or not, I don't really want to open this topic here, but everybody has to answer that question for themselves. But I think it makes a statement that they do actually go away from this potentially pay to win-esque theme to make it more free to play, player friendly in whatever way, shape, or form. We don't really know what effect it will take, right? But I definitely think it's the right step in that they're acknowledging it, like, openly, especially, right? They're not just making like a ninja nerve or ninja stealth move and say like, oh, you can't no longer sell blue crystals because that could potentially piss off whales or other people, like, but I want my blue crystals. So they're not doing that, but they're directly addressing, look, this is the situation. This is what we've come up with. It might potentially hurt our sales, but we're doing it for you, because in the end, if they have happy customers and if they make this game successful in the West in a longer run, so let's say like 1, 2, 3, 4 years, I mean, God knows, I think Lost Ark can run very well for 10 years. If they manage to do it right, they will earn way more than by selling puny blue crystals to players.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So in the grand scheme of things, it's a move that looks nice. We're gonna have to see exactly how much gold that thing costs, because yeah, if it costs the same, then it's just a move that was sort of maybe just done for the looks, or like Wilky said, to remove one of the middle.
I don't think the value actually has a meaning to that. You're just literally removing the problem that people have to go that extra step to have somebody pay to win for them or buy crystals. Whether that's cheaper or not, I don't think that's really making a difference here.
I think it is. Right. I think like Cybo touched on the fact that it's a gold sink, because one, you're at least spending your gold and giving it to another player, whereas with that, you're just spending gold. Period. The gold disappears from the economy forever. So this is also aiming to tackle gold inflation. It's not just they changed the method, but okay, we gotta deal with this gold problem. And I think that's it. But
this is actually a good point. The fact that the gold just disappears if you pay it to the game, as opposed to if you buy crystal, you give it to some other player, which it's still in the economy. Right? Yeah. This actually makes sense. What do you guys think about the mini games that are going to be added? Any thoughts on them? Are you hyper excited? I mean, I personally like to see them, but am I hyper excited to jump into Lost Ark and play the 2D game? I guess not necessarily. Not because I hate the content or I'm some hardcore guy, because I'm not. I'm kind of casual. I don't know. I'm also thinking to myself, like those people, like those haters that already called Lost Ark like a mobile game. Now they're gonna have this 2D thing, or the tower defense game, which is like completely like something you play on a mobile, or at least the mentality is that you do. Now it's available in Lost Ark. What do you guys think?
I think it's really cool. I think it's like a game within a game, and I think it's nice to have these little mini games and these little just casual interactions. I don't think that they spend too many development resources, like, we have to make all these different games. Things like these are nice things that they want to add to the game. One of the things that the direction mentioned, if I recall correctly, is that they don't want to just keep it with the vertical progression of the game. They want to have more horizontal progression as well, have other things to do without being, you have to play the end game, you have to fight the raids, you have to clear these bosses. They want, I guess, more adventure stuff, more mini games, more things for players to do together. And it seems like they've had relatively good receptions when it comes to these little like seasonal events, like the summer event, like the Christmas island, things like that, and all the different gameplay mechanics that come with these. So I suppose only making these be a little bit more accessible. It's like, hey, do you want to play like some tower defense or something? And I guess it's more accessible for casual players, and it gives people more things to do than just, hey, we got a raid now, or hey, we got a PvP. And I think it's nice to have these little mechanics. There's nothing like amazing, and they're like, oh yes, I can't believe that I get to play tower defense. But then when I see like a gorilla in the Anik arena just like fist fighting another raid boss, I'm like, wait, this is kind of cool. I want to try this out. So I think it's all right.
And you, Wilky, are you mega excited to jump into gorilla fights?
Not necessarily. I do actually like a lot of minigames. I played a lot of Mario Party. For those of you who are familiar with custom maps in Warcraft 3, we played a lot of Uther Party or Uther Party, which essentially is the equivalent to Mario Party in a different universe. So I'm actually excited for minigames.
Okay,
if they do it right.
Can I interrupt you for a second and ask you, did you play all of these whatever mini games, tower defense games, Mario Party, did you play them because they were really well done as a game, or maybe because they were a little bit competitive, or did you play them within some other game that you're there for a completely different purpose, for the MMORPG purpose?
I guess the second and third one, like Mario Party, is a standalone game where it's just like minigame, right? So that essentially is like the whole idea of the game is to just play a number of minigames and look who's the winner at the end. But there are some other games that sprinkled in minigames or things that you could do meanwhile. So I think if they do it right and they add, I don't even know if they would add like some kind of progression to it, but if there's something there at the end for people to do it, and if they do it right, not like in a, oh, I have to play tower defense for 1 hour every day because that's going to annoy people. But if it's like a 5 or 10 minute thing, you could potentially maybe even do while you're sailing on the ocean, or maybe while you're dying in a raid, you could, spend the time doing like a little minigame for 30 seconds, 60 seconds to kind of bridge over the gap, because sometimes people don't want to restart the fight because, we lost one player, but we can still do it. So I think if they do it that way, it could be really interesting because it breaks the gameplay loop and adds a layer of, oh, do this, do that. Most importantly, I think, is there actually like the MMO aspect in it? Like, is there going to be like a tower defense versus mode, like maybe within the guild or maybe in your estate, you can invite another player to do tower defense against each other, something like that. That would definitely spark and ignite even like the passion for those games, because people could compete on a whole different level, even if it's only for funsies.
Do you think that this will attract new players? I'm not asking for this to attract a mass of new players and, oh my god, this is going to be a huge part of Lost Ark, because obviously it's not because it's not made well, or they're not going to do it nicely, or the graphics are not going to be good. But I mean, how are you going to tell to your friend, hey, come play Lost Ark because there's mini games that you can play? Like, he can be as casual as you want. Casuals are not stupid people. They just don't play as much, or maybe they're not interested in like the utmost hardest 120 mechanics a second PvE content. But they're not like, casual players don't join an MMORPG so they can play mini games.
Yeah. I think to add to that, is like one thing that I'd like to add. One of the mini games that they advertised was MOBA. It was literally like League and Dota. It's like, oh, you have laning, you have PvP, you're hiding in the bushes, you're ambushing somebody, you have towers to break. Wait, what's this? That's gonna get a lot of people who are thinking, oh, I want like, I'm tired of League, I'm tired of Dota, I'm tired of Smite, I want something different. I love MMOs, and then there's like, wait, there's actually a PvP MOBA, and that's one of the mini games that they added, right? So I think they're just going for a lot of variety here. And I've seen like somebody in chat saying, oh, they're gonna be adding more homework to the game. And I don't think they're going to be implementing these mini games as homework. I think they're going to be more side activities, right? You don't, in between going, you log in the games like, all right, I'm going to collect 10 Mokugo seeds today. I don't think that's what people think. So, all right, I'm going to get, 20% exploration done over the course of the next week in my adventure journal. Like, most people don't really do that. I think these are like side contents that people can do as an optional thing for fun, right? If people like adventuring, collecting masterpieces, they can go do that. You don't have to collect all the masterpieces if you want to be, I guess doing high-end raiding is not like a mandatory, oh, do you have all the masterpieces? Sorry, but you can't join this raid because you don't have that. Right? I don't think they're going to implement that as homework, but just as nice, nifty activities that may make the game a little bit more memorable and give more things to do with players when you just feel like doing something within the game and feel like logging in one day, but you don't really feel like, oh, I want to do this daily or this homework or this whatever.
Well, I really hope in that case that they're going to actually do them right, like Wilky said. By doing them right, I don't mean having good graphics to them. I really mean doing them right, because if what Lin-0 just said with the MOBA players that might be looking for another take on their game would even come true, or we would even get to that point where MOBA players would hear that there is such a minigame in Lost Ark that they can play, those people are not going to come here, start grinding to tier 3 so they can get gear so that they will start joining the MOBA. Those people want to, double click the icon on the desktop and click queue up. That's it. That's all they want to do. And this is, for example, one part of doing it right for those people, for that demographic that doesn't want to hear anything about real money with the exception of skins, doesn't want to, go through the grind of an MMO RPG before they get to these mini games. And again, the same, I saw someone in chat actually saying, Mint, he or she was saying that I'm a casual, I enjoy mini games, I've done all of the jumping puzzles in Guild Wars 2 and all of the beetle races. This is a nice and fair statement, but Guild Wars 2, one of the huge parts of Guild Wars 2 are these mini games, these jumping puzzles, these achievements. The achievement side of Guild Wars 2 is actually one of the attractions of the game. It didn't come 3-4 years later like it comes in Lost Ark, where people are already used to Acrasium, and then after that you completely shot them in the head, you removed all of that, and it's about gear progression and mechanics and Abrashoot and PvP like Lin-0 does, and all of the, and now you add mini games to a very little extent. It's a little bit different. A Guild Wars 2 casual complete achievement person will not be satisfied with the 2 mini games that are in Lost Ark, and won't be enough content for him unless he likes other parts of Lost Ark, which by the way are lovely. And I'm not against mini games, by the way. Just want to keep the conversation going, and just want to dive deep into left and right. Maybe I can challenge my guests as well. So yeah, just saying. Do you guys have anything else to add, or
I just want to add this one thing, because the word or stigmatized, the label of casual has been thrown around, and whenever I say casual, I don't mean it in a hateful or spiteful way. Casual people are simply, like, I think somebody in chat may have gotten it the wrong way. Like, a casual player is not like the classic you casual brew, as in like you suck at this game or something. We're all casual in various areas in our lives, and just because you only spend 1 or 2 hours every day, or maybe only 1 hour every 2 days, and you're a more casual or just laid back player, doesn't mean you're bad or like less worth. Especially since if we're looking at games these days, most of the target audience is probably gonna be casual these days and not as hardcore as it used to be. So for all of you that may have gotten it up the wrong way, I think being casual is nothing bad. I'm casual in a bunch of other games as well. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Plus, if you want to be casual in Lost Ark, you can still perfectly fine do it. That's the beauty of Lost Ark, whether that be mini games that you're doing, or I never played Guild Wars 2 for a very long time, so I can't really say about those jumping puzzles. But if you're more of like a completionist and you're not looking for like high competitive, high-paced gameplay, you can still do that in Lost Ark too. There's collectibles, there's other things that you can do as well, even if you're just a casual player.
Yeah, absolutely. There's absolutely nothing in the negative sense with being a casual player. And I also wanted to mention that everything that gets added to Lost Ark in general as a game, I'm really happy for. I'm also very excited, for example, that they keep wanting to do this esports thing. This is not a must in any MMORPG. But as a player who myself will never ever be part or take part in such a high competitive level in terms of PvP in any games, because I'm just not good enough, I'm still really happy to see that my game has maybe once a year a competition spanning a couple of days on LAN, on esports, of my MMO that I can enjoy and I can relate to in terms of classes, combat, etc. The same goes with these mini games. Very, very happy that they are here, and I really hope that again they will do them right, in the right way, and it's not just going to be I don't know, just another thing, but it's going to be nice. I have trust in them, so I have no doubt that they're actually going to do nice. Speaking about PvP, I wanted to get a little bit into this as well, because there's a lot of PvP content being talked about in Rowan, and also being announced and upcoming. For example, the PvP continent Rowan. I'm going to let Wilky speak about these things. We need to talk about Rowan. We need to talk about the RVR, which I thought means realm versus realm. At least in the previous games that I've played, RVR means realm versus realm, but apparently it's raid versus raid. So take it away, Wilky. Tell us about Rowan, RVR, GVG.
Okay, I mean, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm also under the impression that Rowan is not only...
Sorry, my bad. I meant take it away, Lin-0.
Oh, sure. I'll pass it on. No, go ahead.
All right. I'll take it away. Thanks for passing it forward. So
God.
Rowan's going to be a new continent. This is going to be a kind of faction versus faction oriented like continent. So they've been teasing this for a very long time. Soon they're going to be releasing very soon. Actually, it's going to be released in 10 days. So we're currently on the 19th. This is going to be coming out on the 29th of this year. So it's actually we're going to have that before 2022, and they're going to be implementing Rowan, and you're going to have to pick between two different factions. That there's a red faction and a blue faction. Let me see if I can actually find their names. Yeah, so you'd be picking between. Let's see, I don't have the names here, but either way, they'll be introducing like a new currency with this as well, and they'll also be adding like protection for people that kind of want to be in this Rowan. So they'll have like if you don't want to PK and you don't want to be a part of the PvP stuff, but you still want to experience the continent, you're still welcome to come into the continent and have that kind of PK protection. At the same time, there's also going to be like a story associated with it, and you pick your faction, you go through the motions, the story. There is some nifty little trailer when it comes to it, and as part of this kind of faction versus faction PvP that they're going to be implementing, this open world PK PvP that's going to be in this continent, they're also going to be implementing a new guild versus guild mode that's going to be called Star Guard Siege War. They haven't given too many details on what this is about. It's going to be to do with castle control and castle hold. So I think different guilds will have to go and take control of a castle and then be able to hold that castle. But they haven't been too clear on what exactly that will entail or how that's going to be implemented. But we're going to be knowing pretty soon, right? So this is all going to be coming out within 10 days. So we'll be able to see how that whole guild versus guild and the faction versus faction of Rowan continent is going to be working out. Not sure about how they're going to be doing like this RVR or raid versus raid or how that's going to be implemented. But well, we'll find out soon enough, I guess.
Exciting news to have this faction versus faction thing, for example.
I mean, yeah, I think it's very exciting. I think like it's one of the types of PvP that we haven't seen really in Lost Ark very much. All the PvP has been relatively small scale. Like, sure, you have island PvP, and you have lots of, I guess, guild versus guild events within different islands and the like. But it's good to have something that may be a little bit more organized, right? I think like 100 versus 100 type, player objective control where you fight over the course of like an entire map with lots of different people and not having to organize like a guild for it or be a part of something like very structured and at 8 p.m. today we're going to be doing this guild versus guild on this island, right? You can just join your faction, then go in and be a part of this large scale PvP, which is something that we're talking about, right?
We talked about
like
how
are they going to do it? And then it's very funny that they're going to be implementing DirectX 11 at the same time that they're also kind of going to be releasing Rowan, where we're going to have large scale PvP. So who knows? Maybe they go hand in hand. And they'd be able to deal with the character and the model limitations a little bit better. And that's why they've delayed Rowan, because we've known this for over a year now, and it's only now that we're getting it. So I think now is the time to see this large-scale kind of faction-based PvP, which many people from other MMORPGs have experienced, and Lost Ark have been lacking. So hopefully this will provide them a good place to enjoy the game.
Are you excited for open world PvP, Wilky?
Yes and no. I think open world PvP always brings joy as well as tears, which if it's good tears, as in a way somebody is can take the L and not be like super toxic about it, I think it's good. It also just opens up for a lot of griefing happening, which I think Smilegate did really good in the past to kind of remove almost every potential toxic wasteland trap that could be abused and used by players. I mean, I think the biggest toxic move I've seen from the Korean server was when they implemented the peon change, where they would mail people items, and if you just clicked on collect everything, it would drain their peons because they just sent them like random items because it would take the peons from your account. So I'm a little bit worried that it might shift into a little bit more of a cesspool kind of thing. But I think they do have that in mind because they also said that there's going to be protection. So they are very aware of potential traps there. And open world PvP is fun. It's never really super competitive as like a ranked PvP mode is because, there's all sorts of factors that go in. But I think it's definitely a fresh breath of air because honestly, every time I'm on a PvP island because I'm doing life skills or something there, we just walk past each other. Nobody really bothers to attack each other, even though it's technically an open world PvP zone, if you will. Nobody does PvP there unless it's like an event or something. So maybe this will spark something, and maybe they want to try and get a feel. Maybe Lost Ark's population is actually wanting this kind of like open world PvP, and if it's well received, I could see them maybe expanding on them.
I don't think we know if open world PvP or this Rowan content is going to be normalized, or do we, Lin-0?
So they haven't specifically said whether or not it will be normalized or equalized. It's very unlikely that we'll have it be like Fighter's Diary, right? It's very unlikely that will be the Colosseum style where you have a fixed number of stat points and you go into an instanced arena and an instance map. It's probably not going to be like that. We may see a kind of like half normalization, which I think we even already have in the game in certain places like Capria, where you have like your stats normalized, your main stats normalized, but things like engravings, tripods, skill levels, etc., all of that's not normalized. So we may see this kind of like half normalization thing be implemented. So I think gear may still matter. I wouldn't, this is one part that I'm not going to be too optimistic about. I'm not going to think, oh yeah, they're definitely going to implement Fighter's Diary specifically for Rowan. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll keep the kind of chaotic gear, everything goes style that they have in General Island and Guild vs. Guild PvP. So
Is it
maybe like that. But...
Is okay? So okay, but wait a second. So Guild versus Guild PvP, being with gear that matters. This is still just a map, and if they would add more tactical objectives there, it would, let's say, ease the burden of what gear can get you. But in like a big place such as Rowan, same as on an island, for example, we have even big islands like the Pirate Islands. Those have PvP, right? But nobody does them. But I'm just saying, like, don't you think that this is same as every other thing in Lost Ark instance and can be with the Fighter's Diary? That you should just, when you enter the zone, there's a Fighter's Diary.
I mean, it can be. It's just that I think that this might not just be a PvP exclusive zone, right? One thing that we see is a lot of islands, you have also PvE mobs in there. So they're going to be fighting PvE mobs of that normalized stat. I guess they could, balance it around that, and they could make Fighter's Diary be a thing, mandatory. As soon as you enter Rowan, for you to be able to exit this area or, proceed into this story, you have to set up your Fighter's Diary. Or like Book of Coordination, whatever they call it. And
don't you think it's not going to be good enough if it's not going to be normalized?
I mean, I'd love it if it was like normalized and equalized like core PvP is, because I don't want to build specifically for open mode PvP and gear around that, but that's something that appeals to a lot of people. My vote would be please make it equalized and have Fighter's Diary. That's what I would like. But if I'm gonna put bets anywhere, and if I was a betting man, which I am not, but assuming we are, I would put the bet that they would not be doing like a full equalization of the island. Maybe partial, but I don't think that we'll be seeing that Fighter's Diary system. Again, they haven't said anything, but we'll see in 10 days.
Yeah, right. Okay, are you gonna stream it, Wilky? Lin-0, are you guys gonna stream from the Korean server this Rowan stuff?
Depends on the requirement, I guess. I have a sorceress on the Korean server right now, but she's not particularly geared since I only do PvP stuff on her. I think she's like barely even 1200. So I'll see if it's something that's accessible to everybody, then great. Like, oh, can I just take on a boat and go to the island? Yeah, let's get ganked and get one shot, sure. But if it's like, oh, you have to be X item level to enter since it's the next part of the story, then well, I'm not gonna be able to do it. So we'll see.
Yeah. What about this idea? Tell me, Wilky. You tell me what you wanted to say.
Yeah, well, my Korean accounts are like much worse off than that. So unless they're really going to do it, which I also don't believe, because it's going to be the new content. So I assume there's going to be an IW requirement similar to Southburn. So maybe 1340, maybe even a little bit higher, maybe like 1400 plus or something. So I'm probably not going to be able to showcase this before we get it in the West.
What about no? But see, here is a part where I actually have a little bit of a problem. I actually wouldn't like it to be unequalized unless it's, let's say, somewhat partially equalized. Like, for example, if it's completely unequalized, a guy that's 1615 is just going to be one-shotting a guy that's 1400.
Yeah, so I think what we may see is like main stats will like maybe equalize, so you have like the main stat be brought down, but your engravings, your tripods, landed level of your tripods, that may influence. Of course, that increases your damage. and you may not see, oh, this person is like literally unkillable, and you have like that Sword Art Online moment where you have like 20 people wailing on some person, but their natural HP regeneration just means that they can't do anything. I don't think it's going to be to that level. I think that they may implement some kind of partial stat normalization, but when it comes to equalization and make everything like level, I don't think it's going to happen. But I can pray, I can hope.
But I would be very happy also if it would be, let's say, a lower item level entry. Like, for example, a guy that's 1600 would be very, very happy there. But also a guy that is at a stage of enchanting his gear before it gets extremely crazy. Like, let's say, I don't know, 1470, 1500, right? That guy would also be as equalized as the guy. So it would be, let's say, a maximum item level kind of thing, where after that you don't get anything extra, because if you restrict only those people who are at a very high item level, well, of course you can come in with a Zerg and kill anyone, right? That's not a problem. But I think it's such a huge, I would like to believe that it's going to be such a huge part of the PvP community in Lost Ark, that it would be such a shame to, because very many PvP players, I'm sure Lin-0 knows more of them than me, but very many of them don't necessarily strive on the Russian servers to be top geared. Maybe they are now because it got really easy after a year or whatever. But if you're a PvP player in Lost Ark, I've always advertised PvP as being completely fair and such, with the exception of guild PvP, which I think is great to remain gear dependent. Also, the castle siege can be gear dependent. That's perfectly fine to have something for those people who care about, hey, I'm a PvP player, why would I work for gear? Well, for guild content. Now you have a siege also. But to do Rowan, which is for me such a crown jewel, let's say open world PvP in Lost Ark, finally, to make it like completely like this, yeah, I don't know, just a bad taste in my mouth. Look at this idea, for example, its own gear progression, right? This is a nice idea. Like, you enter Rowan and you start acquiring pieces by doing PvP objectives or whatever. You start acquiring those tokens. So when you enter, compared to a guy that, let's say, has been there for 6 to 7 months, then yeah, you're gonna get one shot, but at least you know you have a fast track way of just getting specific gear for it. This is a nice idea. Very curious how they're gonna do it. I'm gonna join it on my Korean account, because I have one that's quite high item level, and I'm gonna join it just for fun, just to see if gear matters, basically. Yeah, I don't want to cry about equalization, so I'm not crying about it in GVG. I think that's fine. Castle Siege also fine, but for such a crown jewel, such a beautiful piece like Rowan, I think it would be just a shame not to let everyone be on a sort of equal footing. Anything to add, guys, before I move further?
I guess I think some people asking, I hope for normalized arena, just as a shout, the game does have like perfectly equalized arena. When we're talking about Fighter's Diary, we're talking about something like, there is a mechanic in the game where if you go into the arena PvP, into the Coliseum, everything you do there, like, you hit level 26 and you can, like, you are at the same footing as somebody who's level 60 with like completely decked out gear at the maximum item level. It's just like that when you're going to guild versus guild, it isn't equalized, I guess, to this extent. You don't have this separate system with a limited number of stats and skill points that you put into your character. So like this specific PvP, they may take systems like they do in different islands. They may take the system that they do in the Coliseum. We don't know, but there is PvP in this game where gear matters, and there is PvP in this game where gear has absolutely no factor in whatsoever. So just shouting that out.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. What about the 1v1 arena, which was also rumored during the Q&A part after the actual show? Look, Wilky is really happy about it. I'm not sure why,
I am much more of a 1v1 player than a team-based player. Probably because early in my years, almost every sport I did was pretty much a 1v1 sport. So for me, it's not that I don't like playing in a team, but there's other people to rely on, to work with, and I think a 1v1 just really gets the best out of you. It pits you against another player, and if you die, if you lose, then I would say 95% it's on your part. So I would really love to see it. I somehow don't feel like we're going to get a ranked 1v1 mode, because that would be the utmost joy for me if that would really be a thing. But even adding a proper 1v1 mode would be really good, especially to practice combos and give people another, I guess, way to train, because right now you're pretty much limited to custom games, which requires 6 people, which a lot of people just simply don't even bother because I need 5 other people with me. And joining
Wait a
normal
second, what are you
PvPs.
talking about? The ranked PvP is not where I'm training?
You shouldn't.
I'm always training in ranked. I'm just queuing up. I think that's the only mode. I just start the game and just queue for ranked.
I
Right.
mean, that's,
Anyway,
not, that's not the most optimal way, obviously. But I mean, people do that. That's not the thing. No, jokes aside, I think 1v1s would be great. I think Lost Ark has the foundations to make a 1v1 work perfectly fine. Obviously, balance is going to be vastly different in 1v1 than it is currently in 3v3. So that is definitely something they got to work on, because some classes, yeah, I would say outperform other classes completely in 1v1s at the moment. So if they just were to take every class they have, put it into 1v1 mode, this is going to be quite the, how should I say, quite the lopsided split, because everybody's going to roll a specific class that's going to perform well in 1v1. But I would be really happy if they get that to work, and maybe even get a ranked 1v1 mode.
Yeah, I think it's really fun. I think we're never gonna get ranked 1v1. I'm sorry to spoil
what
it,
about
but...
what about a separate rank for 1v1?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, if they're gonna do ranked, they'd never make it the same. If you make it the same, you're insane. If they do ever somehow implement ranked 1v1, it'd be, you have like ranked 3s and you have ranked 1s. The issue of implementing ranked 1s was this entire LOA on, they were going on and on and on about how we need to put work in the balance of this game. This is for PvE and for PvP. And their whole message throughout this is like, we apologize that we couldn't balance our game. And, we're so busy delivering content this past year that we couldn't really focus on balance. But this coming year, balance is going to be at the forefront. We're going to be taking classes like Fighter and Destroyer, who have, very 2018 feel to their identities and their tripods and their skills, and we're going to be like revamping them. And we know that there's lots of issues with class performance. We're going to try and make everything better. And they're like going on and on and on about balance. And PvP is one where they have also at multiple times acknowledged themselves in their own patch notes that yes, our balance is could be better, and we should probably balance our game before hosting a massive tournament of $85,000 prize pool, which is Royal Roaders. This registration is going to be opening next week, right? So when they're balancing for this game, and when they're balancing for PvP rather, they're balancing for 3v3, and that's where the changes we see have been going to, because that is the ranked game mode. So I think 1v1 is going to be 1v1 is huge in Korea, like massive. I'd say there are probably even more 1v1 players that play it casually than there are 3v3 players, because people just like queuing up for 1v1. They like having that kind of, what Wilky is talking about. You don't have your teammates to rely on, it's only yourself. And unless you're playing like at a really high level where you feel that the different balance changes and how hard you may be counterclassed or certain matchups, etc., 1v1 is just very fun to do. So getting a 1v1 specific mode is definitely appealing to much of the casual Korean PvP player base, much of the casual PvP player base in general. And it's also appealing to the more hardcore PvP player base, because just as Wilky said, if you want to do a custom match, you have to get 6 people to do it. Say they want to lab something, say they want to test something out. You can't even do duos because they are going to follow PvE gearing. They're going to follow the PvE systems, the PvE version of skills, because there is a PvP, PvE divide when it comes to skill properties. So when you actually have a 1v1 game mode, I can just hit somebody up and like, hey, do you want to test something? Do you want to duo? Do you want to lab something? And now you can do that. So I'm very excited that we're going to have a 1v1 game mode, even if it's just something that we're going to do for fun. And it's probably not going to have like a ranked system or anything. I think it's a great idea, and I'm very happy that they finally implemented it.
Mm-hmm. Right. I am impartial. However, actually, having said that, I when I started the game in Korea, I actually never touched 3v3s because I never knew that this is the ranked mode. I only played this 1v1v1 and I really enjoyed it. Someone was asking if all of the classes have, let's say, the same chance in 1v1 compared to 3v3. I guess Lin-0 can already answer that by a nod. So it's a no, right? Is PvP balance, or let's talk about both balances. Are both PvE and PvP balancing so bad right now? Like in the utter gutter?
I guess so. Since we're on the PvP topic, I'll take it away. I wouldn't say it's in the gutter, especially when compared to MMORPGs, which tend to be renowned for having terrible PvP balance. I think Lost Ark PvP balance is actually okay, especially when you go into a solo queue scenario where your teams are going to be randomized in a 3v3 setting. You don't know who you get put with, and you have certain classes that are considered weak that can actually perform well given they have a specific comp or they're fighting against another comp. So really, the balance that comes with this game is usually how does your comp perform versus their comp. Unfortunately, when it comes to this, there are many games that you kind of lose at the loading screen, right? If I see, oh hey, that person's like a destroyer bard like sophist comp, and then we're running something like a sharpshooter, deadeye, and arcana comp. It's like, well, okay, there's nothing, we can't touch them. This comp is
How's
really
a destroyer gonna catch you when you're running these 3 super mobile?
You don't need to catch because how are you gonna do damage? Just endure pain, indomitable performance. You're now literally untouchable and you are invulnerable. So
I see.
Yeah, all you have to do is just isolate. You can walk in, you just walk at them. It's a 3v3 game mode. Their only defense is mobility, so then the class is split. Now your bard, your sophist focus on a single character. The sophist engages with instant step. They just go straight into tier 3. They have having a performance buff, so they get increased attack speed. Catch a player, and then they just both hit that player. They just bonk them once, and then they're dead. That's it.
Bonk them once.
And you get a destroyer, just perfect swings. It does 60k, and then it's like, wow, okay, that's it. I'm dead. So
speaking about PvP balance, sorry, my bad. Go on.
No, I was just going to say that I would, because I guess the original question was is PvP balance in the gutter, and I would say I think PvP balance can be okay. I think there are certain classes which shine a lot higher than others, especially if you look at the ladder, right? Like at the Korean ladder, there are 30 slots for Grandmasters and 70 slots for Masters, so top 30 and then top 100. And there are classes that you see just don't exist in Grandmaster. You're not going to find a sharpshooter in Grandmaster in Korea. And you may find 2 sharpshooters in Master, and you find 4 sharpshooters in the top 200 in Korea. On the other hand, you look at Lance Master, and you have 20 Lance Masters at the top 200, and you think, wait, there's something a little bit wrong here. Why do we only have 4 sharpshooters, but 20 Lance Masters?
So and 150 scouters.
Actually, less scouters and lance masters, less scouters than sophists as well. We have lots of scouters and gunslingers as well, and then you compare that to Arcana or Striker, which also is a class that is sort of pretty much underperforming, unfortunately, in that 3v3 setting. So we do have balancing issues at a higher level where you see classes just not perform at a Grandmaster or a Master level of play. And that's going to translate as well to the tournament, and we'll probably see that happening in Royal Roaders. When it comes to predictions, a lot of people think we're going to be seeing 90-80% is going to be very similar comps or very similar comp structures, because there are certain classes that just outperform others when it comes to this kind of PvP. So the PvP community, both in Korea and in Russia, have kind of been requesting for frequent balance changes for a while. And I think now is the time for them to start focusing on it. I wouldn't say it's if you want to go into PvP, don't think of the balance, because until you start getting to a higher level of play, balances are different between a beginner, a intermediate, and an expert player, right? These are very, very different. A class that, like artillerists, for example, does incredibly well at a beginner level of play, but then falls off quite heavily when you start getting to a higher level of play, because now they need very specific comps, so very specific teams to play around them. So don't think of balancing when you're going into the game with a fresh pair of eyes, but when you start going to that very, very high level of gameplay, balancing is unfortunately an issue in PvP, and it's good that they're taking note, and it's good that they're going to be focusing on it.
And speaking about PvP balance, how much do you think having fewer stat points to assign will impact?
I think
classes?
that's a very mixed change. So they did say that they wanted to slow the game down, and this is something else where the game's very fast. You have lots of kind of unreactable engages that just happen, and you have to take them, and then you have to rely on your team to peel for you. And with the CC heavy system, where if you get caught, you just kind of if you blow your roll, you get stunned. There's nothing you can do. So they're trying to slow down the game. And by doing that, you see that every single PvP build, or almost every single PvP build, you're going to see people running 1,000 swiftness, which is like the stat that gives you movement speed, attack speed, and cooldown reduction. And that's the maximum that you can have in PvP. And what they did is they brought that down to 750 maximum. And while people usually have 1250 points to spend in their PvP stats, they're now bringing that out to 1,000. But all they were going to see is people are just going to be running 750 swiftness instead of 1,000. And the issue is that breaks a lot of classes. So if you're playing berserker, you have certain combos, very specific combos that you want to do that you need to meet like a certain agility threshold or a swiftness threshold to be able to perform. And now that you're limited at 750, you can't do them anymore. If you're playing Arcana, for example, you can't do a Dark Resurrection combo now. If you are playing like a Sharpshooter, you can't now get a fully charged knife out of Bladestorm with 750 agility. So there are certain changes. Like this change is massive in that it completely screws up how most classes actually combo. If you're playing Scrapper, God forbid, I'm not sure how you're going to be playing the game with that change. So I think that change is going to be coming, but it's not going to be coming in isolation because they did say, and I quote, time adjustment and animation motion will differ in PvP and PvE. And what I think they mean by time adjustment, based on that slightly scuffed translation, is they may be influencing the speed of animations or attack speed. They may be influencing how long somebody is in hit stun for. So that change in isolation is catastrophic and will completely destroy how a lot of classes play in PvP. Sadly, the weaker classes suffer far more than the classes that are already strong, because the classes that are already strong can perform regardless of being high swiftness or not. But I think that yeah, go.
I wanted to say, and you don't think that this, because like, why can't you do your combos because of the attack speed, right?
Yeah, you can't do it.
Or so because of the cooldown reduction.
Because of the attack speed. So cooldown reduction, you're just going to be combo if you have cooldowns, right? But
right, exactly. So you don't think at all that they did this, for example, for in anticipation of the PvP tournament? I'm not sure when this change is going to take place actually for the PvP, but maybe for like specific pre-mates, like for attack speed, like the Warlord attack speed or the other classes attack speed, that this buff would actually be, let's say, I don't know, somehow valuable. I'm just asking.
I mean, it isn't a buff. That's the thing. It's a nerf. They're not giving you more attack speed. They're taking it away.
No, I'm saying that the buff from the classes that give you attack speed would be more valuable.
Yeah, they're going to be very valuable. Yeah, so Bard and Blade. So Bard has Javelin Performance, which buffs your attack speed. Blade has Cloak of Blades, which buffs the team attack speed, and then like these are already very, very strong classes, and like they do not need buffs, but well, that indirectly buffs them, which is quite suspect. And there is, I guess you can use Wind's Whisper if you're playing War Dancer to buff team attack speeds, and Striker as well has an attack speed buff, which is nice. These classes definitely could use a little bit of love, and it's nice that these buffs are a little bit more valuable. But usually, like this, to have your combos now be dependent on one of your teammates running a specific class, running a specific skill, and happening to buff you at the correct time, you're not going to be playing around that, especially because ranked is solo queue, right? How are you even going to be getting these people? So these buffs will definitely be a lot higher value because they give you a flat increase. It's like X% attack speed up. And that just stacks on top of what you already have. But I don't know. They're going to have to be changing a lot of other things if they're doing this change. Otherwise, the meta is going to be very much shaken. I don't think they're going to be implementing this before the tournament because it will be a very big change to make.
They also said that they're looking to revamp the skill animations and also looking to change and add new skills for the classes in the upcoming months. And actually, this is happening until April. The change to the classes and the change to the old skill and the animations. Not saying that the animations are gonna get faster. That's not what they meant. They meant like visually change. But they also mentioned that they're going to be adding new skills and look into skills that already exist. So maybe somehow for the PvP side of things, maybe for a Berserker, for example, or for an Arcana, maybe they would add an attack speed perk on the skills that now they cannot use for the combos, or another skill that they might be able to use, or that gives maybe an attack speed perk, or who knows. But I'm pretty sure that they know if they do this, which classes are affected and why. So I don't think they're purposely trying to cut the Berserker balls now because they were already not there to begin with, let's say. So yeah. Wilky, any thoughts on on the these things?
I mean, Lin pretty much covered almost everything that I would have said as well. I think that they want to slow down their game. I can see that because well, everybody just ran agility because it opened up opportunities for combos that will no longer, they will cease to function. And like you touched on, you will not build on a character and will not try to build around a combo that only works if you have X or Y, Z class with you. That would be horrendously stupid, and you're going to be underperforming 80% of your games until you hit that RNG and get that class with you, and then you still have to get the combo of while you have the buff on, and your enemy team is going to know that, right? So if the enemy team sees you have Cloak of Blades on, everybody's going to GTFO here until the buff runs out, because they know, okay, now this dude's dangerous because he can tear me apart. And when the buff is gone, then that would create a very strange dynamic in the game. So I'm not entirely sure what their plans are. I think it might be tied.
I wanted to ask, do you maybe think that this has anything to do with casting Lost Ark?
I don't think so. Like I don't like Lost Ark 3v3 is going to be a cluster mess regardless if you're going to have 750 or 1000 agility. Let's be real here. If you have three people against three other people, like every other, like any MOBA team fight is just a mess on the screen, because there's 10 people doing stuff in like 10 seconds. No commentator can keep up with that. So I don't think that's really the problem. It's just more that it's like a constant stream of things. I think it may have something to do with the, I might steal this little topic, with the FOV change, which is something, maybe they want to make this game less about actually dead angling people, so to speak, but maybe more about a tactical approach, right? So maybe they're going to change it so you actually have more visible field of view. So that means you know more of most of the time where the enemy is. So spastic or frantic movements may not be as necessary anymore. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. I'm just curious to see, because pretty much every class has combos at their hand that a lot of them will cease to function. So that means a lot of players will have to reinvent their classes, so much so that I'm not even sure if they are, like, I haven't tried it myself, but I'm not even sure if there are valid combos for every character out there with 750 agility. So that's something to be seen, what they have in mind there.
Which classes, someone was asking, which classes benefit from this slower combat, longer cooldowns?
I wouldn't say benefit, but suffer less is probably the word you're looking for here. A class like Summoner, for example, Summoners usually wouldn't, like, they don't always run 1000 agility to begin with, or 1000 swiftness. Specialty is a stat that's very valuable for Summoners, so a lot of Summoners that never ran 1000 swiftness, they won't even feel this change. Scouter skills, for example, their instant activation, they're frame 1. So as soon as you press the button for the skill to come out, you just like he dials it in, and then the drone's going to activate the skill. The only animation is you doing the character animation, but because as soon as you press the skill, the drone has the command, and that's a frame 1 activation. All that changes is your animation lock. The drone's still going to perform the skill at pretty much the same speed. So that's also fine. There are classes which can still combo just fine. So Blade's main combos, so kind of like landing their Rising Whirlwind into their like Headhunting Stun and then Moonlight Sonic, like that's still fine. People are not going to get up before you manage to finish that. So while it is something that does affect Blade, that's something that she can deal with. Also, she has an attack speed buff. She has Cloak of Blades, and she can still play around that. She can still rotate her engages around Cloak of Blades, so that's not something that matters that much.
Very strange, right? This change in general, very strange. As it doesn't take down the leaders, like the Scouter, for example.
Yeah.
It's still gonna be there, right?
The support classes as well, like they're okay with that. Like, of course, having lower cooldown is always useful, but it's not like, Bard's main combo, Overture Storm and Soundholic, that still works. So I don't know. That's weird.
I'm just strange why they have done it, to slow their game up. I get that, but how much is it going to be slowed at the end of the day? Regardless, there is also some CC changes. Anyone wants to talk about them, or we just pass them over?
I can talk about the CC changes. They are something that most people don't realize. These aren't like standard system CC changes, but different characters have different fall speeds. So if you knock up a warrior, they float in the air for quite a long time before they fall to the ground. If you knock up a mage, however, she obviously needs to go on a diet because she falls in almost instantly as soon as you knock up a mage class. Fighters also fall really quickly, but then like warriors and gunners, they float for longer. And you have like different tiers of how long a character floats in the air for. Usually you don't notice this, but certain classes have very specific combos that you cannot perform on like a mage or a fighter because they fall so quickly that you can't get another skill to connect in time before they fall into the ground. And that's really frustrating, right? Because you have like, you just like fighting games, you have character specific combos where you can do like a big damage combo on a warrior, but then a mage doesn't work on a mage because they just roll. They fall to the ground quicker. So they said that they're going to be normalizing the time in which a character floats in the air specifically. So most people probably don't know that, but it's pretty big. It makes a lot of combos viable. Hopefully, it'll make more combos viable in a lot of classes. That may be able to offset the swiftness change a little. If they make characters just float even higher than they do currently, then maybe okay, now these unviable combos that you couldn't do before, now you can. But we'll see.
Yeah, I guess these changes don't apply for people like myself. I'm in early bronze, 750 points of rating. Let's move onwards to a different topic that I wanted actually to cover, the boss facing indicator. Any of you have any thoughts about this? I think
I mean,
it's really nice, but
I think the indicator is good, but I also think it kind of saddens me, not only because I am a Devil Hunter slash Deadeye player, but I was really hoping for them to actually pitch an idea of how they would really address the whole back attack, front attack situation with that. I mean, having an indicator is really good because you now know, okay, if I stand here, this is going to be a back attack. I do get my bonus, and if I stand there, it's not going to be that. It doesn't change the underlying problem, though, that especially Legion raids were so fast and so hectic that even though you have an indicator, but it still doesn't change that the boss is going to move around 3 times a second. So how does that indicator help me in that regard, right? So I'm a little bit baffled. Maybe they don't know internally how they want to touch that subject yet. So this is their idea to kind of like soften the pain for some people, because sometimes if the boss doesn't move, like for example Beatrice, for those of you who did this, she has a lot of moves where she actually spins around, but her hitbox doesn't spin around. So her model is facing in a different direction where her hitbox actually is. So in that regard, it would actually help some of those issues. But I think the underlying problem is still those back attacks and head attacks are a little bit, I would say, problematic for some classes, especially in hectic content.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't even have time to look at the boss's faces. I just look down at my skills most of the time. So having that at the bottom of the boss right there, where my feet are or my skills are, for me it's very nice. The third awakening skill was also announced that it's going to work in a little bit of a different way. It's gonna sort of have its own gauge that you need to fill, and then after that you can use it. So it's not gonna be a choice in between three now. This is another nice change. Obviously, new corps commanders and one new raid boss is planned, at least until April next year. It just makes me happy to see or to hear that they have only 3 pieces of this new instance content planned, out of which one of them is a Guardian raid, right? Which is very interesting. They have so many other things. By the way, if you just joined us, welcome. Very nice to have all of you here. We've talked about a lot of important changes so far. So if you wanna, the stream has DVR. If you wanna go back and watch it, we just have a few more actually to go through. Dungeon entries outside of towns. What do you think, guys? How much is this going to help? Like you can open a menu and see what cooldowns you have available for raids, for dungeons, and wherever you are, you can just enter it and exit at the same place.
I think that's nice. I think it's like a nice quality of life change. I guess it does take away a little bit of the whole, everybody's in town, everybody's gathered up. You have like the sense of society and community. Now people can just go away and do whatever it is that they want to do and still queue up for stuff. But I like these quality of life changes. When they did that to like PvP, hey, you can queue from PvP from anywhere. I'm like, hey, that's great, that's wonderful. So it's good that they're actually applying that to other aspects of the game as well. I think the whole attention to detail is something that they do very often, and adding these quality of life changes is part of that too.
Wilky,
Yeah,
you
like
happy? You're gonna gather your Mokoko seeds and just
I
queue
was
up?
about to say that that means I finally get to actually do collectibles and still go on my Mokoko collecting adventures besides just queuing up for stuff. And I think for PvP the change was much more like it was of higher importance than for the PvE part, because basically before that change, if you were a PvP Andy, that means your entire Lost Ark game revolved around sitting at that board, clicking on match, tab out, and wait until you hit that coupon, right? And so essentially now PvP players get to play the game while waiting for PvP. It wasn't as extreme for PvE, but I still think it's a very nice quality of life change. You can do collectibles, you can roam around and, check out islands, do some side quests you didn't want to do earlier, all while waiting for your queue to pop. So I think that is a massive change to make the game feel not necessarily more alive, but more streamlined. I can do whatever I want, wherever I want, and I'm not locked to sitting around a town, or worse yet, even at a specific statue task board or anything like that.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know why these things were in the game to begin with, to be fair. Why couldn't you queue up from PvP wherever you are? That was for me. I mean, I actually had a video in 2019. It was early 2019 when I said the 5 things I don't like about, 5 things I hate about Lost Ark. And this thing with the queuing up for PvP was one of them. Now it was fixed, so I have just 4 that I hate. Cool. So there are other changes. Do you guys want to talk about anything else? Because there are other changes. I mentioned them, by the way, for those of you who want like the full list of changes. I've just recited them right at the beginning of the stream. Wilky, Lin-0, do you want to talk about something else? But I want to say they're little changes. Well, they're little but big. Nothing really to discuss in order and number of buffs displayed. This is nice, a quality of life change, or the MVP pose, right? Or the selfie mode update. But if there's anything that you guys, any change that you guys wanna talk about?
Nothing in particular. I guess like a lot of the changes talked about, the whole, how they're going to be improving skills and tripods. Technically, that's going to be a change. Improving skill effects, adding. I guess everything else would just be additions as opposed to changes or improvements. Like they're going to be adding like that 3rd awakening skill, which isn't really going to be like normal awakenings. It's going to be this unique, separate skill that you have to build up to, which seems like something that's interesting. Or adding new continents, things like that. But these aren't changes. This is new stuff that we're getting. So I think we kind of covered most of the changes.
We also talked a little bit about our release in the West, by the way, towards the beginning of the video. Cool. Well, I guess I'm going to be going back to finding a class for me to play in Lost Ark. It has been an absolute fucking nightmare. Oops, I said the F word on the podcast. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, but that's everything for today, guys. Remember, list of changes. Wait a second, I wanted to show you something actually. What people have voted. I will show this to you right now. I had a poll, and the poll was about if you would like Lost Ark to have more healer classes and tank classes, and this was quite interesting for me. Let me just quickly make myself live. So these are the results of the poll that I had. 57% of votes said no, they would not like Lost Ark to be more of a or to go to the road of a more of a traditional Holy Trinity kind of game, and 42% said yes. I would like more healy tanky classes, which for me is interesting to see. I actually always wanted to see what people think about this, because I know that other MMOs such as Guild Wars, they started out with big ambitious plans of going completely outside of Holy Trinity, but then later down the road they actually realized that there are really many people who enjoy playing more of a tanky role, more of a healer role, and they didn't want to miss out on that. So they did it. Definitely no Holy Trinity. Cool. Well, thank you so much, guys.
I would like to add one question, because that has been asked quite repeatedly by multiple people. I can only answer for myself when we talk about those quality of life features. We don't know what kind of version we're going to get in the NA NDU servers yet. I hope that we're going to get as many of those updates as they are showing us. But we don't know. I don't know if they would actually delay our version to implement those. That seems kind of... I don't think so. I suspect we might see one or the other quality of life update with us in the Western servers. But by all means, I'm fairly certain we're not going to go to all of them, at least not yet.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Wilky here. I think that maybe the DirectX 11 would actually be super huge, super nice to have straight from day one. And some other things would be nice, like when you swap characters, you can see what cooldowns you have. Queuing up for dungeons outside of towns, that would also be really nice to have. Starting with day one, you don't have to give the wrong impression to people and expect that they watch some Loa on and find out from somewhere that this is coming. Hang on, hold your horses. Very excited myself for this new content. Very excited to see if gear matters in Rowan, right? Or to what degree does it matter? To see if I'm going to be super excited for it or just excited for the people who want to take this this challenge on of gear mattering. We're going to see exactly. Many of these things that we talked about today, by the way, we will not have with day one release for us in the West. Then again, I'm starting to doubt what is going to be our day one release. Is it going to be the same thing as it was in beta? Because I know as a fact that they mentioned the release might have more content than what we've experienced in beta. Content by content, I don't think they mean classes, because this was before Sorcerers, and now they've added Sorcerers also at the expense of Summoner. So what kind of new content, right? Are we going to get tier 1 and tier 2 all at the beginning, starting with day 1, or what exactly is going to happen? Yeah, very interested in January's article. I guess that's gonna define it. Very interested in the roadmap also that they have for us. Very interested in a lot of things, quite frankly. But yeah, in any case, if you guys from that are watching, if you guys have any questions, by the way, now would be the time. Someone was saying that Jin was saying that I think DirectX 11 could come. It's a feature much needed. Yeah. I also think that it shouldn't be delayed. Did you guys, Lin-0, Wilky, spot any questions that we might actually be able to answer?
Well, we actually answered almost everything already. But
have they ever confirmed that the Summoner was part of release, or we assumed because it was in beta? Well, I mean, they didn't specifically say Summoner will be part of a release, but it was in the avatar picture. It was in all of the articles before. It was in the alpha, part of the classes. So yeah, Summoner was swapped. Yeah,
it was a bit of a sudden change. Like we also had the mage video that they made, right, where they announced all the classes, and we thought these are classes going to be on release.
Yeah.
And then they're like they retconned it, and they're like, this mage video, yeah, it's gone, never existed. We're going to release a new mage video. Here's Sorcerers. I mean, so I think they were originally planning on having Summoner on release, but either changes coming in from Korea, possibly because of the rebalancing that they want to do to some of the 2018 classes, or possibly because of, I don't know, they felt it would fit better within, I don't know, the early release that we're going to be getting. We really don't know the reason as to why they removed Summoner. Technically, they said we want to have more content because of the delay, and I guess they are right. We didn't get more. We just got different content, still the same number of classes. So who knows why exactly they did that? But it is sad. I think people were fine to have the expectation that Summoner was going to be released, and then they kind of dashed that and be like, by the way, sorry, all of that, yeah, forget about that. Sorceress is a new class. I guess to answer the question, yeah, go on.
Yeah, answer the question that's on the screen. What's the change that the one thing, if you could pick one thing out of all the changes coming in 2022 after the last law on, what would be the one thing?
It's going to be the thing that they focused on for the majority of that conference, and that's going to be balancing. I think the game is so polished, and the game has so much going for it.
So lame.
I
Should be
mean, it's
excited for
true.
balance.
I like this. This is the marker. This is somebody that's played the game for a while, right? As somebody that's played the game for a while, I wouldn't be sticking with the game if I didn't think it was great. If I didn't already like what the game had to offer. So you have all these flashy, new, shiny things. I'm like, oh my god, that's super cool. And I'm like, the game that I'm already playing is great. So if we can balance that game and make the version that we have even better, then that's like my number one like desire. But if I'm going to give you a more fancy answer, I guess when it comes to the actual new content that's going to be coming along, female Zerka is definitely my high point right now. I'm definitely going to go crazy when the trailer drops. So that's my most excited change other than balancing.
There you go. What about you, Wilky?
Well, Lin just stole both of my answers already, so I'm gonna go with my third pick. That's gonna be the 1v1 mode. That's definitely something I'm looking for very much. Whether that be ranked or not, I will definitely play 1v1s, even if it's just for practice purposes. But really looking forward to see how they plan to implement that, and if they actually want to balance the game around 1v1s or not.
My favorite one is the fact that they're not even thinking about tier 4 content. That's my favorite one. Rado was asking, they mentioned reworking of older classes. Does that mean new visuals or a complete rework? I think it means definitely not a complete rework. Definitely new visuals. And they also said that they're looking to add new skills to classes, like actual new skills on the list of skills that you can drag to your bar if you like them. So that's going to be an exciting thing. Let's see. Any other Cook Satan cosplay soon? I think you got the wrong content creator. That's Stoops. He's over on Twitch. He does cosplays. Him and Lofi. They want to do maid cosplays. Koku. Cook Satan cosplays. Yeah, I'm more into. I'm more of a serious guy. Hope you haven't seen any of my music videos or Mokoko news. Right. Any other questions? Privyet, by the way, to the large Russian community that's in my chat. Privyet and Davai do svidania. Look, there's another question, by the way. Do you think we will see the same prices for the cash shop across different countries? Or will they also vary pending where you live? What do you guys think?
Well, I can already say that it's going to be different. You can just compare the Korean costume prices to the Russian costume prices. In Russia, you pay like $6, and there you go. You got a costume. In Korea, you pay 20. I think we're going to be seeing prices that are more similar to Korea's costume. When it comes to regional pricing, maybe when you buy crystals, we may see Steam regional pricing be applied. So maybe you get more for less. Who knows? But considering the recent kerfuffle that they had of trying to make regional prices be less extreme, I think we may be seeing things a little bit in the higher end to kind of cater to the North American and Western European audience when it comes to prices, most likely. So I think you may see prices that are similar to Korea, and that's what I base my expectations on.
Okay, what do you think about the pricing differences in between North America and South America? We all know everything's the cheapest in Argentina in terms of Steam prices for games and for everything. So everyone makes an Argentinian account and buys stuff there, or games I'm talking about. If the people from South America or from Latin America, South and Central, will be allowed to play, which they will, on the North American servers, should they still have different pricing just because they live in a country but play on a different server?
It's like I'm always a proponent for regional pricing, but then I can always screw up the economy as well. So it's a different balancing act that they'd have to do. What they may do, this is something that I've seen in other games like Tree of Savior, is you buy cryptocurrency for the region that you are in. So you may see North and South America have different currency prices, or have like different currencies altogether. So the pack that you buy, the crystal pack that you buy for North America, would only give you crystals in North America, whereas the crystal pack that you buy for South America would only give you crystals for South America. And that way, you'd still be able to maintain regional pricing without screwing up the economy of people just creating South American Steam accounts and then buying stuff off of that, which is kind of what we saw happen with what was it? I think it was Turkey and like the founders packs, which they also already normalized to some extent. They already increased the price of the cheaper founders packs that we had on Steam. It's still not perfectly equal, but it is still cheaper, but not by a massive margin. So we'll either see the same thing that they did with founders packs, or we just may see a region split entirely, depending on whether or not they'll be able to have Steam support that.
All right. Someone was asking what's our thoughts on sorceress being added instead of summoner. We just actually discussed this a little bit. I think they added it because of the lack of a mage, which was one of the things that they thought the Westerners want. Unsure if that's going to be the case or not. Summoner was the second most popular, most created class in our closed beta. I'm pretty sure that half of those people who picked Summoner were looking for a mage and not necessarily for a warlock or for a necromancer or whatever. So because of that, I think they wanted to do this. But what do you think, Wilky, for example? Because Lin-0 said his thoughts, but you...
Well, yeah, I think it's pretty much the same. I find it kind of weird that they did a switcheroo instead of just, we all know you Western folks just love a good classic mage. So here you have the sorceress, but we're just gonna take away the summoner from it. It's like, bro, why not give both? Like, I would really see the reasoning behind this, because there's a lot of theory crafting behind it. One could be there's a legal reason. There might be something in the contracts. Smilegate and Amazon agreed, look, you're going to launch the game at this and that date, which we now know is going to be the 11th of February or 8th for founders, and you're going to have 15 starting classes. That's it. So maybe they tried to rework it, and then they said, like, nah, maybe not. There might also just be classic economical reasons. Look, every time we get a new class released, we can sell pre-orders, we can set new outfits, it's going to spike prices, right? So just talking financial standpoints here, they will earn more money by staggering class releases as opposed to releasing 16 classes at once. There might also be the simple reason Sorceress is going to come out in Russia very soon. It's still a very frequent topic on the Korean server, so they might just try to hop on, I wouldn't even call it hype train, but the advertisement and talking and the talkative nature of the community that is happening around Sorceress, being like, look, we also have Sorceress on the Western servers, Maybe that's their whole idea. Maybe it's a combination of those three. Maybe it's something completely different.
Screw up Russians, yeah. The Russian version. Cool. I was very happy in my video that they added Sorceress. Not for me, because for me it is actually a nightmare. All I've been doing since the announcement was boosting up classes on the Russian server. I think I have 15 by now. For me, it's just a nightmare, really. I don't know why, but it's just a nightmare to find another main. Regardless, someone else was saying me in a maid costume would boost my channel pretty hardcore. But if I wanted to boost my channel, do you think I would have been creating music videos for Lost Ark, a Korean game, for the past 3 years? I would have been in the World of Warcraft complaining about sexual abuse, and then jump over to New World complaining how the game is dying. That's what I've been doing. Destroyer on the European side would surprise us with one more class. Absolutely not. How will I decorate my island? We don't have time during today's show to talk about the decoration for my islands. Let's see. I'm a little bit behind with the questions. Let's just quickly check, make sure that there are none. Perfect. Okay. So thank you so much, guys. This was everything for today's Lost Ark podcast, The Ark. I thank you so much, by the way, for joining me. Thank you so much for joining us while we were discussing these cool changes that are coming over. My next podcast is going to be sometime when we actually have something exciting to talk about. Maybe in January. We are towards the end of December right now, so in January it would be nice to have to start with these podcasts on a regular basis, because we're getting close to release, and we're always going to have stuff to talk about, what's happening in our version. I cannot wait for that. Thank you, Lin-0. Thank you, Wilky, by the way, for joining me.
Thank you, Silo.
With pleasure.
And we will see you guys. They will see you too. Wilky is also streaming on Twitch creating content on YouTube. Their links for their channels are in the description below. Lin-0 is streaming on Twitch, creating content on YouTube also. Someone was asking me on Discord actually why Lin-0 and Wilky are in most of my Lost Ark podcast. The answer is very simple. It's because they are actually two of my favorite content creators, people that you can really learn from. They're really nice, and I highly recommend you watch 2 seconds or 10 seconds of some of their videos and decide for yourself if they're worth your subscribe or not. They were worth mine, by the way. Lots of love, guys. Thank you, and I'm gonna see you really soon. Bye bye.